world is moving ahead at breakneck speed. In 2023, we had one more war that is now roiling geopolitics. It is upending the global order as we knew it. In 2023, we've got the Israel-Hamas war, which may have started off as a limited operation to try and teach Hamas a lesson, but now it seems to be sending the entire wider Arab world into a tizzy. And this was on top of the other war that has been ravaging the world for close to 2 years now, the one between Russia and Ukraine. In that war, it is almost dead certain now that Ukraine cannot win from this point. It will have to make peace with the 20% or so of its territory which it has lost to Russia since this war began in February of 2022. So what is likely to happen in the world in 2024? What are going to be the 5 big, broad trends in foreign policy that will likely shape events in 2024? Here's a lowdown. It's all about elections, elections, and elections in 2024. There's going to be more elections in 2024 than in many years past. In 2024, some of the world's biggest democracies will be going to the polls. From America to India to even the tiny island nation of Taiwan, 2024 will see more than 4 billion people of the world competing to elect governments in their respective countries. In the subcontinent, there will be elections in India, Pakistan, and Bangladesh. It could well reshape the politics of the subcontinent. Depending on who wins in Pakistan, there could be a revival of some kind of thaw between New Delhi and Islamabad. The Pakistani military establishment seems to be backing former Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif, who's come back. He has historically encouraged better ties with India. In Bangladesh, most likely Sheikh Hasina will return as Prime Minister. While that is good news for India because the Awami League has been largely seen as a pro-India party. But her government is facing considerable pressure from the United States, from other international organizations for the jailing of political opponents, and also facing accusations of muzzling free and fair elections in the country. In India, of course, the Modi government is expected to come back with yet another thumping majority, therefore reinforcing India's place in the subcontinent and in the emerging global order. Later in the year, there will be elections in the United States of America. Anything can happen, from Trump being convicted in any of the number of legal cases that he's currently faced with. Biden's ill health may also change the campaign if he decides to withdraw, or if unforeseen health circumstances force him to withdraw from the race. But if Trump were to be elected again, and as I said, today he's leading Biden in all 7 swing states by big margins, then he could upend everything from the Russia-Ukraine war to the Israel-Hamas war. If Trump were to win, then he will likely dump Ukraine and cement Russia's de facto control of 20% of Ukrainian territory. He will also likely put more pressure on Vladimir Zelensky, the embattled president of Ukraine, to accept a peace deal with Russia on Russia's terms. In the case of Israel, Trump could give a free pass to Benjamin Netanyahu to double down on the war against Hamas. This would mean that an embattled Israeli prime minister will be emboldened to go after Hamas with even more severity, thereby blunting whatever criticism he has faced from the current US administration under Joe Biden. This could further drive a wedge between Israel and its Arab neighbors. The process of normalization of ties between Israel and Saudi Arabia, for example, will have to be put finally in the cold storage. America's relations with the Latin American Committee of Nations will also be severely strained, all the way from Mexico to Argentina, because Trump is going to make migration, particularly from the Latin American hemisphere, one of his top priorities. One of his top jobs at hand would be to seal the southern border, which has become a huge point of contention between the Democrats and the Republicans on Capitol Hill. That brings us to the third big trend of 2024, and that is the fate of the 2 ongoing wars. While the world's gaze has been utterly shocked by the Israel-Hamas war, that war is unlikely to end anytime soon. Israel's stated goal is to completely destroy Hamas, and while that may be possible militarily, it might not be possible politically. It's certainly not going to be easy to find a replacement to fill the power vacuum in Gaza once Hamas is eliminated. For example, America, under the current dispensation under President Biden, and its European partners, Britain, Germany, and France, have explicitly said this to Israel, that they want Hamas to be replaced with the Palestinian Authority in a post-war Gaza. But Netanyahu will have none of it. He feels emboldened enough by this war and the results of this war that he feels he now has the latitude to bury the two-state solution once and for all. This will, of course, not be allowed either by America or by the Arab world. So it's likely that in 2024, once the military part of this war is over, that Netanyahu will be forced out of office, either by the main opposition leader Benny Gantz or the more middle-of-the-road current defense minister Yoav Gallant. But it is unlikely that Netanyahu can cling on to power through much of 2024 once the main part of the military operations of this war are over. The Russia-Ukraine war, on the other hand, is grinding into a slow stalemate. Ukraine's famed counter-offensive in 2023 came a cropper. They were not able to repel Russian troops from the eastern parts of Ukraine. Russian defenses proved to be far more resilient than anticipated. Russia is now firmly entrenched in the Donbass, and it is unlikely to give up this territory. With this, Russia moves closer to its stated objective of establishing some kind of a buffer state between itself and an ever-expanding NATO. A battered Zelensky returned empty-handed from a year-end visit to the White House and to Capitol Hill. It's unlikely that the Republicans on Capitol Hill are going to give any more funds to Ukraine, partially because much of the funding effort is now shifted to Israel, and also this is their way of putting pressure on Biden to crack down on the southern border problem and illegal immigration. If Trump gets elected to the White House, then funding for Ukraine will almost nearly totally collapse. This would add pressure on Ukraine to forcibly sit across the table with Russia and negotiate a cold peace. 2024 will also see Asia back in firm focus. The geopolitical tensions between the United States and China are likely to exacerbate. Irrespective of who wins the White House in 2024, tensions between Washington and Beijing are likely to escalate. Anti-China rhetoric will start dominating the campaign trail. Neither Trump, the Republican favorite, nor Biden, the Democrat incumbent, would want to be seen as reconciliatory towards China. Hawkish anti-China rhetoric plays very well with the industrial belt that's the Midwest states. Remember, many of those states also happen to be the swing states, which ultimately will decide who wins the presidential election. There's also elections in Taiwan, the small island nation which China claims as its own. If the leading candidate right now in the polls, the DPP's William Lai, wins, it will lead to further tensions with Beijing. Mr. Lai and his party want complete independence. They do not recognize Beijing's claims on Taiwan. But if the more conciliatory candidate of the KMT or the Kuomintang wins, which is an unlikelier scenario right now, Beijing might stop interfering. In any case, expect more military muscle flexing by China in the run-up to the Taiwan polls. China will also likely test other nations in the Asia-Pacific with whom it has a troubled relationship. Of notable interest will be the Philippines and India, both of which have shown a willingness to push China back. And finally, the fifth major trend you're likely to see has to do with new clean energy and artificial intelligence, both of which are now going to become mainstream. There used to be a time when oil and gas controlled geopolitics. What else explains the oversized power that mid-sized economies in the Gulf, Saudi Arabia, Iran, UAE, and Qatar seem to enjoy? But in an all-electric world which is dominated by the likes of Tesla and BYD, oil and gas are fast going to lose their relevance. What is going to gain relevance in the place of oil and gas are rare earth minerals like lithium and nickel. These are required to manufacture semiconductors, which are used in many electronic items that we use, and also to manufacture clean batteries. Now, whoever controls the supply chains of these rare earth minerals will be able to control global geopolitics, much like what these oil-producing countries did through the 70s, 80s and 90s. The lithium and nickel-producing countries will be able to do in the next part of the 21st century. Similarly, artificial intelligence will completely start taking over in 2024. Notwithstanding the drama that we saw around OpenAI founders first being kicked out and then being brought back, the debate over human intelligence and jobs losing out to artificial intelligence will continue to further exacerbate in 2024. There could also be the negative effects of AI. There could be election meddling, deep fakes of celebrities, a lot more of which is going to come to the fore in 2024. A lot of old jobs will become fast redundant. Coding, which of course has elevated an entire lot of population in the developing world, most coding jobs could likely become redundant. A lot of new ones will be created as well, but the question that will be asked most in 2024 is, are the economies of our world attuned to producing the engineers and doctors and scientists and researchers who are cut out for the jobs of 2024 and not the jobs of 2004? So all in all, these are the 5 big broad trends that you're likely to see in the coming year. Wish you all a very happy new year and season's greetings.